Today we've got a Bob question. If you guys have never watched a video with a Bob question, basically it's when someone has an issue where they don't want to be named, and so they go by the alias of Bob. So today's Bob question is from a buddy of ours who's a blue belt, and so he says that he is one of those guys in the gym that's always cracking jokes, making people laugh, trying to get them to smile, and he's been training for a good while. He says that recently his coach has seemed to take more of an authoritarian stance on things, right? And recently his coach was coming into the gym and he greeted him as he would normally as another human being, right? And he says that his coach instantly looked at him and said, "Don't talk to me like you know me." And he stared at him, right? And so our buddy Bob was kind of like, he broke eye contact and just kind of laughed it off a little bit, and then he kind of looked back, and then his coach looked at him again and says, "Don't look at me." And he says that, again, it didn't give off at least the appearance to Bob that, you know, his coach was joking, right? He said he felt like there was a weird stern stare going on there, and it really made him feel uncomfortable. And he says that it's weird because his coach has always been very friendly, and he's not sure why all of a sudden he's taking this very strong, stern stance, right? He says that recently, afterwards, his coach has not been very friendly like he normally was, and recently he sort of, you know, sent his coach a Merry Christmas message, and his coach just sort of said Merry Christmas back. And he's wondering kind of if he should just kind of keep this professional, or if he should, you know, he doesn't really know, like, what the advice would be. So, Bob, thanks for the question. And again, as I told you before, I would talk to your coach, right? You got to know what's going on. And I know that you said keep it professional. You're probably one of those people that's like the people that kind of come into my gym. I don't really like professional, right? Like, nobody comes in and says, "Hey, Professor Chewy," right? Like, sometimes I'll get coach, but I let people address me by first name, and I get to know them by first name, and I talk to them, and I get to know more about them because, again, there is a business aspect to this stuff, but I genuinely care about the people that are coming in. If you've trained with me for a long time, you know, I genuinely care about what you're getting out of this. And so I want to get to know you and how everything's going. And there's a reason why, like, this city has several jiu-jitsu gyms, and we have people that come from like an hour plus away to get here. We were talking about this tonight, and it's not because we're pumping out belts or because we've got this, that, or whatever. It's because of when you get in here, you get plugged in, and there's a cool community here. And so I think that a lot of gyms have that. And so it's very strange that your coach has turned this way. But I think probably one or two things is probably happening. One is that you misinterpreted what your coach was saying, right? Maybe he was joking around with you and trying to get a rise out of you, messing with you, and maybe you took it the wrong way. This has happened before. I know that one of my students, actually wasn't one of my students because I wasn't a coach yet, or the head coach. I was just one of the assistant coaches, and I was coming in to train one day, and one of the guys that used to mop the mats for his membership, he was just there, and I kind of messed around. I'm just like, you know, cracked a joke, as you know, we often do with each other, where we're kind of like messing with each other. That's how you kind of know you're in the in group, is when people start to mess around with you. So when we got onto the mat later on, we're rolling, and when I was rolling with him, it was weird because, like, he started to, like, I can't quite explain it, but his roll was very tense. If you guys have rolled with someone for years, you kind of know when something's up. You can almost like feel it, right? You can get to know that, like, a sixth sense about the person. And so when I was rolling with him, something was just off. I couldn't put my finger on it, but something was off. And as we began to roll longer and longer, I had him in submission holds, and he wasn't tapping like he normally does. And in the end, I had him in an arm bar, and I felt some like crunch at the end, because I was like slowly extending it and extending it and extending it, and then all of a sudden I felt like a little crunch. I let go, and I was like, "Dude, are you okay?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And it was so weird because he's just like, "I'm fine." He wasn't talking to me. At the end of the roll, like, I'd get up to shake his hands, like, "Is everything all right, man?" And he gets up and he pushes me. He was like, "Yeah, bitch." And he said some other choice words. And for me, like, I'm not instantly like, I want to fight him. I was like, "Oh my God, what happened? Like, where did like we cross this barrier where you're angry at me now?" And he said that, like, when I was walking past him, you know, messing with him, cracking a joke, he took that very seriously. And for me, I was like, "I'm just joking, man. You're always, you know, welcome to give it back to me." Like, that's the way that I feel like is, like, you know, like when you're in like a team, that's what happens. Everybody just jokes on each other. And when he realized that, he looked at me, he goes, "Oh, geez, man." He goes, "Thanks for not whooping my ass afterwards." And, you know, we kind of laughed about it afterwards. It was like, that's cool. And so maybe something like that's going on with you, where basically your coach is messing with you and you've taken it the wrong way. I don't know. Now, the other side of it is, you know, maybe because you said that your coach used to be super cool, and all of a sudden he's taking this very authoritarian sort of stance on things. Maybe he's got into, I've seen this happen before, where like coaches are super cool and then they get advice from people that can be sometimes kind of funky. Like there was years ago where I was on this conference call for these guys that were trying to advertise like their way to run a jiu-jitsu business and a mixed martial arts business. And one of the things that they said was that you always keep your students kind of like at hand's reach, like keep them back, keep it very professional, right? They will always address you by your title, right? And all that kind of stuff. And for me, I remember listening listening to it. I remember I was drinking a glass of bourbon, sipping on it, listening to it, and my girlfriend at the time was like listening to it. It was on a Sunday night or something, and she's like, "What are you listening to?" And I was like, "I don't know." I was like, "I don't like this at all," because they were basically like, keep everybody away from you. They should not get to know you at all. And it's very weird to me because, again, like when you walk in, if you're a part of the gym, I basically consider you my friend now. Like, come on in, man. Let's. I get to share the coolest thing with you ever. You're my buddy now. Let's do it. And unless you give me a reason otherwise. But maybe he's taking advice from something like that, where maybe he's trying to go this route where you address me by my title and I keep you very at arm's reach and we keep it very professional. There's enough of that stuff outside of the gym personally for me. So I'm not sure. Now, my advice on it either way, Bob, I almost called you by your name, is to talk to your coach, right? And if you don't feel comfortable talking to your coach and asking them whether or not they're upset with you, then you should probably leave, because there's no reason like you should not be able to approach your coach if you have a question. Because what happens if you have a question about the technique that they're showing? Maybe then it becomes, ooh, I don't want to ask them a question because maybe they'll be mad at me, right? And then that's going to hinder your ability to grow in this stuff. And also, there's just a personal connection that exists. And so if you're going to, stay with this stuff for a long time, you got to have that personal connection. If it becomes like you're just in there clocking in, doing your time, and you don't feel that connection to the people inside your gym, including your coach, jiu-jitsu just loses its draw, I think, right? It becomes, okay, I'm just exercising at this point. You can do that anywhere. But it's that draw, that community that you get sucked into. And if you don't feel plugged in, you don't feel able to talk to your coach in a way that, again, man, you're paying to be there. You should be able to talk to your coach about whatever it is related to jiu-jitsu that you want to. Even if that is, hey, man, are you upset with me about something? Did I cross the line somewhere? Ask him, talk to him. Okay? So, Bob, thank you for the question, brother. That is my advice, and good luck to you with your situation there. Hope it ends well. Let me know how it goes.